Dumelang, habari, murbuanj, bon dia, mangonani, bonjour, and good morning to all the people that have joined us. Welcome to the Moving Towards Action Ending Gender-Based Violence session. And today we want to find out what is it that young women want, particularly around this topic, because we have seen that gender-based violence has become a scourge in our region. And most of the time, as young women, we don't necessarily have the resources to fight around it. So usually it's defined as an act of violence, which is likely to result in a physical, sexual, or mental harm with around women. And with all the shocking statistics, guys, that has been declared as a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic that affects all the women. We all know that 1 in 3 young women or women, they are affected by this pandemic, and also that 35% of women, they have also experienced some sort of violence or some sort of sexual violence when it comes to gender-based violence. And we also have realized that within the region, they have seen that there are 200 million young women who have experienced female mutilation or cutting. That is shocking. If you're still thinking that is shocking, we also have 38% of murders of women that are committed by their intimate partner. And every 30 seconds, the moment that video started, it's already 3 minutes. It means that 6 women have been raped, which means every 30 seconds, there is a woman that has been raped, either by their intimate partner, either by a stranger. And sometimes the stranger that we keep on waiting for never comes. And, you know, it boils me to ask this question to Rugari from Malawi, Murubwanji Rugari, and I want to know, as a young as a young woman who has been in the forefront of fighting against gender-based violence, and also we commend Malawi for, you know, ending child marriages. We know that child marriage is also one of the issues, or one of the types of gender-based violence. So what is it that young women want in Malawi when it comes to moving towards action on ending gender-based violence?
All right, thanks, Lerato. So there are several things that women want, and the common thing is they want it gone. They want this evil to stop happening. And I think the first thing, which is something that annoyingly happens a lot, is that perpetrators are allowed to just roam around and they're let go. So I think the first thing that young women in Malawi definitely want is for action to actually be taken against perpetrators of gender-based violence. About a year ago, I was helping someone with, should I continue?
Yes, you may.
All right, so about a year ago, I was assisting a client with a case of gender-based violence. She was being beaten by the boyfriend, and we took this up to the police. I assisted her, we got some legal aid. However, the boyfriend happened to know some people in the police, and so this is distracting, sorry. And so the boyfriend happened to know some people in the police, and he was able to get out of the cell. He was out on bail, and nothing was really done about it. And so he then kept coming back to the lady, terrorizing her and saying, oh, you thought I could, you know, get in trouble for this. And that's how, you know, he got away with it. And she ended up having to relocate from where she was living. So I do know that, you know, we definitely want action to be taken against perpetrators. And the second thing we want in Malawi is we want less of laws and more of implementation. So Malawi is a country that has, and I think it's the same for many African countries, we have really good legislation. We have the Maputo Protocol, we have the National Gender Policy, you know, all of these instruments that protect women and girls. However, we don't have enough implementation on the ground. So I think what girls want is, you know, to say, you know what, let's put the laws on hold and actually start implementing those laws that were implemented. And the other thing that I believe that women and girls want is decentralization of services that address gender-based violence. So everything from reporting services to clinical services, things like counseling. I was in the district about 3 weeks ago talking to women, a certain district called Nchisi, and we were having a discussion around gender-based violence, and these women were sharing horrific stories of things that are happening to them in their families by their husbands, but unfortunately they do not have platforms to report this, and you often find that it's deep in the farms and the police is not even close by. So it's such a hassle to be able to leave their homes and travel all the way just to report a case. So I think there's need to decentralize these services. And lastly, I really think that we need to build systems that will eliminate gender-based violence. And when I talk about systems, people do the things that they do because they were conditioned to think the way that they think by different things. And you find that people are conditioned by families because this is where gender norms are formed. People are conditioned by the church because this is a belief system. And people are also conditioned in school by the behaviors that happen in school. So I think we need to work on building systems that will be able to fight gender-based violence. So I know in Malawi, the Seventh-day Church has an annual campaign called End It Now, where they actually address issues around gender-based violence. So I think addressing these issues from the root causes or from those places where people's trains of thoughts are formed is another way of addressing this. And that's definitely what women and girls want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, we just saw something very disturbing, and my deepest apologies to all the participants with what just happened. We were hacked. My deepest apologies. I'm still shook. I'm still shocked by what I just saw. And please note that the session, it's recorded, so for just security purposes, and for those who don't want to be seen or their faces to be shown, you can remove your face. But I'm glad that you spoke about the issues of implementation, that we have very, very good laws, especially in the SADC region. But the issue is implementation. And as young women in Malawi, you want to see implementation taking place and doing away with just the paper. And it brings me to Marilise from Kenya. Habari. So Marilise, I know that in Kenya that there is an issue of young women who are impregnated in schools, and on its own, that's just violence. That is sexual assault, that is rape. There is so many issues in terms of that. And I want to know, from the Kenyan perspective of young women, we know that we want to see those young women getting justice. We want to see those young women going back to school and ensuring that they are safe, and they can also call out whoever has been, infringing that abuse to them. So from your side, how would you want to see us acting as the SADC region? What is it that you guys want?
Hello everyone, good morning from Nairobi. That was very disturbing. I'm still processing what was happening on the screen, but let me bring myself back in. And on the question you've asked about, teenage girls being impregnated, up to the tune of 150,000 girls, and that I can bet you for sure we have. It's not peer-to-peer sex. And if it is there, then according to the statistics in Kenya currently, we only have 6% of teenage pregnancies coming from peer-to-peer. The rest, up to 76%, it's people who are either 10 to 15 years older than the teenagers, which means it's adults, it's people who can make decisions, can make choices, can be able to see that constitutionally in Kenya, for someone to be able to consent to sex, they have to be 18 years and above, but they'll still take advantage of the girls. Now, that said, we also have a system that we have laws and the constitution that is really functional and highlights all these issues. And we have a Sexual Offences Act that is supposed to deal with all these issues. But we also have a loophole, and this loophole is with the leaders, where we have leaders where their intentions are not in the right place. I mean, we even have leaders that, it is only last year that we had a situation of a leader in the coastal region of Kenya where this guy married his current wife when she was still a kid. She was below 18 years and the law was not. So pretty much the gatekeepers, the people who have been given the authority by the citizen to implement the laws that have been put in place, are the ones who are contributing to creating the bigger gaps that are happening, that are affecting young girls and women in general. Now, on that, I'll leave most of it for Mariah to highlight more, and I'll focus more on GBV and the LGBTIQ community, and why I want to focus on that. Personally, I'm a member of the LGBTIQ community, but also the second thing is that when all these statistics are being highlighted, all these statistics are always highlighted from a point of, the heteronormative ways of doing things, where it's men and women and everything. But most of the time we forget that people in the LGBTIQ community, first of all, we don't have a statistical representation of the people who belong in the community. Why? Because it's still illegal to have same-sex intimacy and everything. So all that aside, it becomes hard to highlight issues like gender-based violence or issues like intimate partner violence, because immediately you go through, as a queer woman, if I go through intimate partner violence and I go reporting, I'll have to say who put me through that, right? And in an incident that, of course, I'm a queer woman, which means I'm dating a woman, by that alone, I'd be exposing myself and the person that I am dating or I'm in a relationship with, or the person who has put me through violence, to a possible 14 years imprisonment, because then, for me to say I've gone through intimate partner violence, I've pretty much said this is someone that I get intimate with and they have abused me. And in that way, I'll be setting myself up for imprisonment and all that type of stuff. So that said, there is a lot that needs to be done. I mean, part of the efforts would include the Repeal 162 case that we are waiting to get new schedules for the court hearings and everything after the disappointing ruling last year. But outside of that, there's a long way to go, because, like, for instance, we just came out of the census period, and the census period is pretty much a time where you can be able to know the statistics of the people and be able to know how to plan better for them. But because us as the LGBTQ community, the intersex people were at least counted, I wouldn't say that the counting was done properly, but I would say at least that was considered and included. But outside of that, we don't have statistics, so it becomes really hard to plan for this population and everything. And now that feeds into the bigger population, because then you realize, because we live in a country and generally a continent that looks at homosexuality and people in the LGBTQ community as something that, people get recruited in, as a lifestyle, as a thing that is not necessarily really, it's a phase or something like that. You realize most young LGBTQ people cannot come out, so they end up experiencing a lot of violence and everything, but they can't say anything about it. And these remain to become stories that are told later in life, that we should have heard of, or that we should have created a platform earlier enough to be able to make it comfortable for these young people to speak about their sexual experiences and if it's abuse that they're going through, so that we can be able to know how to deal with that. So for me, how I'm looking at it is that all these governments and policy makers and people who are contributing to coming up with policies that are contributing to ending gender-based violence in Africa could come together and match notes. I'm sure the issue, and especially COVID-19, has highlighted this issue of early pregnancies, issues of gender-based violence. Right, like 1 month after COVID, there was a huge surge of gender-based violence and everything. Mm-hmm. So if we come together and match policies, we can be able to provide solutions for the same.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna take what you said there, that sometimes they just you get stats or census coming to collect stats, and we often as women ask ourselves, is it just for stats purposes? Are we just going to become part of the statistics, or is the government actually going to do something about it? Because most of the time, especially in the LGBTI or the SOGIES community, they are not really counted. If you go to them and tell them that my girlfriend is abusing them, it raises a lot of eyebrows, because especially in our region, it's still seen as a taboo in other places to be a young lesbian woman or to be a young gay man. So I want to know, from Zambia's perspective, knowing that they still have good policies and all those kind of stuff, how can we ensure that gender-based violence is ending? Because we become part of the stats. Already we are part of the statistics by a virtue of being a woman, by a virtue of being a young Black woman, you become a stats on your own. And already when you turn 21, you experience some sort of sexual violation, either by your partner or a family member or a stranger. And sometimes we keep on saying that the stranger that we keep on waiting for never comes, because the abuse that we endure, it's either from a family member or from an intimate partner or from the police. There are so many people that are abusing us. So from Catherine, I want to know from your side, how can we move towards zero violence. You know, I want to use that word because usually when it comes to HIVs and all this kind of stuff, they say moving to zero. We also want to move to zero, ensure that we do not normalize slapping. We do not normalize insulting somebody. We do not normalize denying somebody services or resources because you have a hold over them. We do not normalize emotional abuse, which sometimes it's not seen as any type of abuse. Like, for instance, name calling, being told that you are stupid, excuse my French, but those type of things. So I think we have lost Catherine.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. No, I couldn't see you. But then from Zambia, how do we move to zero? How can we move to zero? And as young women working together, how can we do that?
Well, in Zambia, we have, like you said, we have good policies. The problem is the implementation and also education. We have bad culture, so to say, because culture is now normalizing GBV. So lack of information, I should say, because we have very good policies. I think the implementation, just like Malawi, the implementation becomes a problem because the law supports women. The law supports us very well, but we just have the mindset also because of culture and tradition, because we have, okay, so to say, in Zambia, most of the GBV cases are done in households. So we have a woman who has 5 kids and her father gave her all the 5 children, you can imagine. So she has a family of 5 children who their grandfather is also their father. So issues of GBV happens in different homes and they normalize them. So for instance, if I'm being abused by my father, my mother will tell me, what if your father goes to jail? What are we going to eat at the end of the day? So I'll be forced to keep quiet and just bottle up everything. And because my father is being protected, he will do it again and again and again and again. And people begin to normalize such things. And because we don't have the information that we need, we have we have organizations that are going in rural areas to educate people. But I also feel for us to get to zero, we need partnership. We have the information, but as activists, advocates, different organizations, the CSOs, we need to come together and do massive sensitization, because we cannot do it on our own. And when we look at resources, the population is quite large to accommodate everybody. So we need to come together in partnership to sensitize people on different issues, because in Zambia, it's becoming a common occurrence. Every day we have at least 50 cases of gender-based violence, and these are the reported cases, and we have quite a number of unreported cases, just like somebody from Malawi mentioned, to say you find that in rural areas people don't report cases because they don't have a police post, or a police station is quite far from where they stay, so it's quite hard for them to report such cases. So we need to partner and do massive sensitization and educate people, because if you don't know something, you normalize it and think it is okay for it to happen. There are some traditions where before somebody is married off, forcibly married off, they have to sleep with their father for their father to know what the child has to offer. I don't know what that means, but yeah, we have a tradition in Zambia that does that. So, and also some tradition, they also sacrifice their children. They give, there's a traditional ceremony that allows families to sacrifice children. These are virgins, so they have to sleep with other men and whatnot. So that becomes a challenge. So people don't know, and because it is their tradition, they begin to normalize such issues. And for people to know that it is wrong, they need to be educated. And so policies are there, but the implementation, and also because people don't know, and only a few organizations are doing that. So if a lot of organizations can come together and just sensitize people, let them know, because once people have the information and the knowledge that they need, these things will reduce and we'll get to the numbers that we want. That's zero. So we just need to work together and sensitize people, especially the young ones, because even when a woman is being battered by their husband, society expects them to stay. If they leave, they'll be laughed at. So if I'm being beaten by my husband, I can't leave, because I'm thinking, okay, what will society say about me? And also, if I report this man, what will they say about me? Aside from that, if I'm not working also, I'll feel, okay, we're going to stay hungry because the person who provides for us will be jailed. And also, just last week, the Minister of Gender passed a law to say all the reported cases of GBV won't be withdrawn, because we have a lot of withdrawal cases in Zambia. Women are reporting their husbands. After 2 days, they'll go back and withdraw the charges because probably they don't have food at home. Society is laughing at them. Probably families are sitting down to say men are like that. And also men have got a tendency of saying, for a woman to respect you, you have to beat them. A woman cannot say no to their husband and whatnot. So people are forced to withdraw the charges or to withdraw such cases. So that also is becoming a major challenge in Zambia. We have quite a number of women withdrawing cases. And if cases are withdrawn, men keep on repeating the same acts. So we need also to address that as well.
Yeah, I hear you. And I remember I once said that I can't wait. I really can't wait for the day whereby our mothers or our grandmothers will tell us that they do not respect men. They are actually afraid of men. And that is why they have been staying in relationships that they're getting beaten, they're getting abused every day, because every time a victim is never believed, a victim is never taken to rehab, a victim is always named and shamed. And I love that you spoke about culture, and it's something that we always shy away from, or we are too skeptical because we don't want to step on certain people's toes. And the issue that you've mentioned in Zambia about people, or fathers sleeping with their kids, it's not only in Zambia, it's in different countries. I mean, for instance, in Zimbabwe, if you have sex, there is a certain church, I will not name it, but if you have sex as a young woman and you go to church without telling the priest or the priestess that you had sex, they remove your garment in front of the entire church and you are stripped naked. That on its own, it's trauma. You ask yourself, what did I do to be shamed, to be abused like this? So those are some of the things that are done, and they are normalized because in the name of culture. But I want us to go back to the issue of, I know that Marilise has spoken about the issue that, we usually speak about gender-based violence as if it's a heterosexual issue, but it's not. It also goes to the LGBTI community. They are also raped because they call it correctory rape. They're correcting you, and it's all in the name of culture. It's all in the name of the street culture, and we need to make sure that we end that. And I'm going to go back to the issue of the teenage pregnancy, the statutory rape. I'm not going to call it teenage pregnancy. I'm just going to call it a spade and call it the statutory rape issue in Kenya, whereby young women, they're impregnated. And Mary has already highlighted that it's not peer-to-peer. Most of the time, it's not peer-to-peer. It's an adult who is excuse my French again, but then a pedophile who decides that I'm going to prey on a young woman and I'm going to make sure that I satisfy whatever desire that I have in order to, in the name of culture. So how do we move to zero? How do we ensure that we protect young girls from their protector? So Mary, I'm posing this question to you, that how do we ensure that we protect the young girls from their protector and move to zero, and make sure that the 150 young girls that are impregnated right now, they do get justice? Oh, Maria, sorry, Maria, yeah.
No, it's okay. Hi, my name is Maria from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much for having us, Lorato. So I think I can start by saying echo what all my colleagues are saying. Yeah, we don't say teenage pregnancy; those are rapists. Like if you have 100 teenage pregnancy, those are 100 rapists working scot-free, and they need that. We need really. That is so unfortunate. Like I can give you a snapshot of what is happening in Kenya. In March, when the pandemic started, we had 57 estimated reported cases. But in the next month, we had almost 300 reported cases. So you should pause and ask yourself, what about that young woman, that young lady who is in the outskirts of Nairobi or in the upcountry? They cannot access the police post. They cannot access the platform where a safe space where they can actually come and report their cases. And with the rise of the teenage pregnancy, it's so unfortunate that our policymakers are trying to sugarcoat it. They're saying that we, the CSO, are actually hiking the numbers. It's like they're saying the numbers are not real. And it's so unfortunate because it's high time we bring the face to the statistics, so that the policymakers can actually feel like, you know what, this thing is really real. Because day in, day out, we're having 10-year-old girls having, being pregnant, and you ask yourself, who impregnated these young girls, So it's so unfortunate. And then another case I can give you, that day, there's a case of a young woman who went to the police post, to report a case. And the police officer who is supposed to protect the young woman, turned against the young woman and decided to rape her. So can you say that the young woman was the one who, seduced the police officer? Can you say that? Can you say that? What was she wearing? Because we have so many, people are trying to justify rape, that like, what was Maria wearing? Why was she walking out late? And I believe that there's no room for any justification of any sort of rape, any sort of violation. I believe that everybody has a right to say, and if I say no, you need to take my no as I know. So with that case of that young woman who was raped by the police officer, at least we can say that it was a win-win for us, because she finally got her justice, and the police officer is, as we're speaking, is going to serve life imprisonment. Because apart from him, violating the young woman, he even went ahead and started threatening, and that is so unfortunate. And I think from what I'm getting from all other my colleagues, they're saying that we have very beautiful, policies. Like it's the same in Kenya. We have very beautiful boardrooms where we have very smart people sitting in those boardrooms and making very beautiful policy. But what happens after that? We take the policies and put them under the shelves. So we need the policymakers to come out there and go back to the community, so that they can engage one-on-one with these young people. Come and engage with me, talk to me, ask me what is the problem, as we need to go back to the root cause. Because we have the hotline numbers, but if I call the hotline numbers, how effective is the hotline number? As in, is that the person that is going to receive my call? How effective is that person coming to my rescue? We say that you have the rescue centers, yes, but how effective are those rescue centers? Because if we have an emergency there that we need to accommodate 1,000 girls, can the government be in a position to do that? So those are some of the cases that the questions that you need to ask yourself. And the other day we had our president committed to fighting GBV. So I think we as the CSO, we need to come together. We need to work hand in hand with our president, so that we can make sure that we end GBV. And I think another thing I can say is we need to capacity build our women. Because if you tell me, some women think that by someone slapping you, or maiming you, or inflicting pain in you, that is when you feel like that is GBV. But you need to realize that GBV starts with someone shoving you around, someone hashing you, not giving you chance to talk, someone taking a lead of your finances. So women and girls need to be given platform to air out their views. Women and girls need to be given platforms, so that they can know that GBV doesn't have to be someone inflicting pain in you. Someone can abuse you physically, someone can abuse you mentally, or even financially. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I hear you. And because, you know, sometimes this conversations, it needs a lot of time because there is a lot of things that we need to unpack. There are a lot of things that we need to discuss. And because of time, sadly, participants will not be able to ask questions. And I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. Not, yeah, just 30 seconds. I'm going to pose a question, but before I pose that question to you guys, I just want to retouch on some of the things that you have mentioned. And one of the things is that we need to address the issue of gatekeepers, because we have so many gatekeepers of gender-based violence. We have so many perpetrators that are being protected, continue to make money out of misery, out of the pain they inflict on us. You know, they continue to share stories all in the name of being in rehab or being saved or being changed and all those kind of stuff. And another thing is that if we were winning against gender-based violence, we wouldn't be in this discussion. You understand? We wouldn't be sitting here and asking ourselves, how do we get to zero? And another thing that I got from you guys is that people who are abusers are the ones who are fighting our battles, and we continue going to them. That's why I used the term of protect us from our protectors. And I want you guys, in your last 30 seconds of closing, you know, the session before Zoom decides to cut us off, how can we fight this battle? You know, because this fight, it's everywhere, it's globally, it's not just in Malawi, it's not just in Zambia, it's not just in Kenya, it's not just in, you know, Tanzania, Mozambique, but it's everywhere, from states to here. We keep on getting people that are hurting us. We keep on getting people that are teaching us hurtful or toxic norms. They will tell you that if your husband doesn't slap you or your boyfriend doesn't slap you, then they do not love you. If your boyfriend if you do not shame, or if you tell people that your father is abusing you, then what are you gonna eat? You know, if you are telling people that I am being beaten at home or I'm being abused, how am I going to go to school? Who's going to pay to school? For instance, the issue that we just seen right now with one of the hackers hacking our session, whereby we're speaking about issues that are affecting us personally as young women, that are hurting us day in and day out. Somebody decides to hack in and do whatever that they want to do because of their craziness, because of their sick ways, if I can use that for a lack of better word. So I want us to in our last 30 seconds before we close, how can we make sure that we get protected from our and as women, I become my sister's keeper. You know, I ensure that my sister is safe. So I'm gonna hand over again in the order. Rugari, how can we do that?
Okay, so I think when it comes to ensuring that we look out for each other, is that what you mean?
Yes, protect ourselves from our protectors, because we can't do this on our own. We can, the same people that are claiming to protect us, the same people that claim that they've been rehabilitated from rehab, you know, they're the same people that continue to inflict pain on us. In the four walls, behind closed doors, they will tell you that, you know what, I will beat you. But when they go out, I would, usually they call it a narcissistic tendency, you know, when they go out in public, they are lovely. They are the most beautiful people, you know, they are respected. They stand in the highest form of position, but at home, they are the same people that are beating their women. They're the same people that are raping women, they're raping young kids. So how can I become my sister's keeper without making them feel vulnerable? Yes, they are vulnerable, but without making them feel like, you know, their dirty laundry will not sit in my space.
All right, so I really think that the first thing we can do is, like what Maria said, women need to know and understand the broader context of gender-based violence. It's not just someone hitting you, it's not just someone pushing you to the floor, it's more than that. And I think it's only when women begin to understand exactly what it is that they can begin to say, you know what, no, my friend, that was not right. What he did to you, that is violence, and you should report it, or you should do something about it. So that's definitely one way to, you know, improve women's knowledge and educate women on what gender-based violence really is. And the other way is, because the thing is with gender-based violence, women and girls, or the people who are violated against, will be on the other end. They take the shame, and yet it really should be the other way. I'm not the one who has violated me, somebody else has done it, but then the shame comes to my end. So there's need to really work on a lot of psychosocial interventions. And so that goes back to what I said earlier about we need to decentralize clinical services for victims of gender-based violence. Let them be available deep in the farms, in the rural areas, to everybody who needs them. And I think through counseling and therapy, that is how you begin to understand that this was not my fault and that this did not happen to me because I deserved it or whatever. And you know, you begin to acknowledge that, no, I'm not the one at fault, it's the other person. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Rugari. Catherine, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. How can we, it's the same question to you guys. How can I become my sister's keeper without shaming them or them feeling small? Catherine? Okay, I think she's gone. But then, yes, Mary-Lise, your last 30 seconds, how can I become my sister's keeper? Especially, you know, I want you to speak from the LGBTI or the SOGS perspective, because as you've mentioned, we keep on treating this as if it's a heterosexual issue.
For me, I'll start by saying definitely first and foremost, believe victims. We have to start a culture of believing victims of abuse, regardless of whether they are gay, they come from the LGBTQ community, if they're heterosexual people. Let's create a culture of believing victims. It's very important. And then when it comes to the LGBTQ community, I feel like because regardless of how the laws look like, even if the laws change today, still we have people, and most of homophobia that we experience, most of abuse that we experience does not come from the law. It comes from the people who live it. It could be people, it could be your family members, it could be your partners. For me, I'll say the other thing is become an ally. You don't have to be a person in the LGBTQ community. You don't have to have friends to understand the issues of the LGBTQ community. Learn to be an ally by reading about it, asking about it, talk to people like me and other LGBTQ activists and human rights defenders that are out there. Get to know a lot about the LGBTQ community and then know how to help these people when these things happen. And when we match that with believing victims, then we will zero in on reducing the number of GBV cases happening across the globe, because then it starts with believing a victim that you can be prompt, like you can be prompt in terms of going to seek, justice for them. But if you don't believe them, then that's where now patriarchy demands that you protect it by attacking the same person who has been abused. So if we believe victims, then we reverse the whole situation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just gonna pose it again to you, Maria, before we close. I've noticed that Kathy is back, but then Kathy, while you're still thinking about it, I think Maria will tackle it. How do I become my sister's keeper without making them feel small, without, causing a big hoo-ha? Because sometimes the problem with us women is that we want to be relevant, we want to gossip, we want to show people that we know what's happening in somebody else's life. So how can I become my sister's keeper?
Thank you, Lorato. I think we need to normalize checking on each other. Rugari can actually call me and check on me, because you never know. Maybe she might find me I was on the verge of committing suicide. So normalizing checking on each other is very good. And I think another key aspect is we need to normalize working out of relationship, working out of marriages, because hey, it's okay to start afresh. Because I believe it's better I work out alive than working out dead. So just normalize checking on each other and normalize talking about these issues and working out of a relationship that are not working. Thank you so much.
Yeah. While you were speaking about working out and normalizing, during the week, one of my friends sent me a picture about clubs, offering women that 10 women, they get probably free drinks before 10 o'clock. And that on its own, we need to start questioning it, because that's a modern culture. We need to start questioning it. Why is it only women? Why do you want me to get drunk and not give it also to men? And every time when I hear somebody saying that she was drunk, she was asking for it, you need to ask yourself, why am I thinking like that? And it's not because she was, when she was drinking alcohol, she wasn't asking for it. She expected a hangover, not some sort of sexual violation, you know. So Catherine, thank you for coming back. I just want you in your last 30 seconds to let us know, how can I become my sister's keeper in the SADC region? Because this issue, it doesn't affect countries only, but it's in the region. And we want to come up with, how do I put this, solutions that will cater for the entire region, so that an Africa or the SADC region becomes better. We're moving towards zero. So how can I become my sister's keeper without shaming them? Your mic. You have muted your mic.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I was saying we need to be more empathetic and less judgmental. For people to come to us and open up, we need to show them love, that we care. And some people don't want to come out because they're afraid that you spread the news. Like you said, we like to gossip and whatnot. We need to rise together and speak out. Let's be a sister's keeper by checking on each other, spreading love, just posting on social media the good news, the love that you care about people. And also, let's use our different social media platforms to educate people, because you never know who's watching, you never know who's reading your comment and what they are going through. So let's just learn to spread love, be empathetic, let's put ourselves in other people's shoes for us to understand. Let's not judge people. Let's not rush into judging people. Let's learn to understand and hear their stories to see how we can help them, because together we can. And if we fight this together, we're going to meet the expectations that we want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, as you have heard, guys, we need to ensure that we check on each other almost every day. Let's check on each other. Let's make sure that every time when you walk, you share your location with your friends. And I always tell women that make sure that when you're sitting at home or when you're walking, just switch off your location. That pinpoint, somebody can come and get you. Lastly, but not least, let's make sure that as women, we deconstruct power domination, because if we don't do that and we continue being the gatekeepers, then we will not win this fight. For everybody out there who is still thinking about harming a woman, or who is still thinking about harming their partner, sit down, drink some water, ask yourself, what does your privilege do? Before I close, I'm going to close with this quote, and share it so that people can know that whatever that they're doing, it's harming somebody next to them or in the next generation. And it goes like this: if I hit you with a spade, would you call it gardening? Thank you very much. Thank you for all the participants, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Rugari, Maria, Marlies, and Catherine for joining us. Karibu.